I found my daughter Sophia bleeding on the cold concrete floor of our garage, her white blouse soaked crimson, her accounting files scattered around her like fallen leaves. The metallic smell of blood mixed with motor oil made my stomach turn as I dropped to my knees beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus on my face. "Mom," she whispered, each word seeming to cost her everything. "Check Dad's old files. Victor lied about the accident. He's been stealing." Emil Arn. Her hand went limp in mine. For one terrible moment, I thought I'd lost her just like I'd lost her father 5 years ago. My fingers found her pulse, weak but there. My nursing training kicked in even as my heart shattered. I pressed my cardigan against the stab wound in her side and screamed for someone to call 911. That November evening in Phoenix started like any other. I'm Rosa Mendez, 58 years old, and since my husband Miguel died in what they called a brake failure accident, I've lived alone in our modest Scottsdale bungalow with Sophia. She moved back in after Miguel's death, saying she wanted to keep me company, but I knew she was grieving too. Miguel had been her hero, the man who worked his way from construction laborer to project manager at Ashford Construction, one of the biggest development companies in Arizona. The paramedics arrived within 6 minutes, but it felt like hours. They stabilized Sophia and rushed her to Banner Desert Medical Center while I rode in the ambulance, holding her hand, whispering prayers in Spanish that my own mother had taught me. The lead paramedic, a young woman with kind eyes, told me the blade had missed her vital organs by inches. Whoever did this wanted to kill her, but either lost their nerve or was interrupted. At the hospital, while Sophia was in surgery, a detective arrived. His name was Barnes, a tired-looking man in his 40s who'd probably seen too many crime scenes. He asked me if Sophia had any enemies, if she'd been in any disputes, if our neighborhood was safe. I told him what I knew, which was almost nothing. Sophia worked long hours at Ashford Construction as a junior accountant. She came home, ate dinner with me, worked on her laptop, went to bed. She didn't date much, didn't go out drinking, didn't have drama with friends. "Mrs. Mendez," Detective Barnes said gently, "do you know what your daughter was working on lately? Had she mentioned anything unusual about her job?" I shook my head, but then I remembered. 2 weeks ago, Sophia had been quieter than usual. She'd stopped eating the pozole I made, pushing food around her plate while staring at nothing. When I asked what was wrong, she said she'd found some irregularities in the company books, numbers that didn't add up, payments to subcontractors she couldn't verify existed. She said she found problems with the accounting. I told Detective Barnes. She was going to report it to her supervisor. The detective wrote this down, but I could see he was skeptical. White-collar crime didn't usually lead to someone getting stabbed in their own garage. Sophia survived the surgery. When she woke up 36 hours later, groggy from anesthesia, she grabbed my hand with surprising strength. "Mom, listen carefully. I can't tell the police everything yet. Victor has people everywhere. Promise me you'll go home and find Dad's laptop. It's in the attic, in the box marked Miguel's Tools. The password is my birthday plus his badge number. Inside there's a folder called Discrepancies. Don't trust anyone until you see what's there." Before I could ask more questions, she fell back asleep. The nurse said it was normal, the medication making her drift in and out, but those words haunted me all the way home. That night, I climbed into our dusty attic for the first time since Miguel died. Cardboard boxes were labeled in his neat handwriting, each one a memory I'd been avoiding. Christmas decorations, Sophia's baby clothes, tax documents 2010 to 2015. Finally, I found it. Miguel's Tools. Inside, beneath an old drill and some measuring tape, was his laptop, silver and scratched, the Ashford Construction logo sticker still on the cover. My hands shook as I opened it. The screen flickered to life, asking for a password. I typed, "Sophia's birthday, May 15, then Miguel's employee badge number, 2847. The screen unlocked. Miguel's desktop background was a photo of the three of us at the Grand Canyon, Sophia about 12 years old, all of us grinning under the Arizona sun. I had to wipe my eyes before I could see clearly enough to find the folder. There it was, Discrepancies. Inside were dozens of Excel files, PDF scans of invoices, and a video file titled "For Rosa, in case something happens." My heart stopped. I clicked on the video. Miguel's face filled the screen. He looked tired, older than I remembered him. His hair had more gray than in my memory. This must have been recorded shortly before he died. "Rosa, mi amor," he said in the video, his voice making tears stream down my face. "If you're watching this, then something has happened to me. I need you to know the truth. Victor Ashford is stealing from his own company. For the last 3 years, I've been documenting it. Fake subcontractors, inflated invoices, money laundering through construction projects that don't exist. I estimate he's embezzled over $10 million. Miguel rubbed his face, looking scared in a way I'd never seen him. "I confronted him last week. I told him I was going to the FBI if he didn't come clean and return the money. He laughed at me, Rosa. He said nobody would believe a Mexican immigrant over a third-generation Arizona businessman. He said his family built this state, and people like me were just grateful to have jobs." The video, Miguel stood up, pacing. "I've made copies of everything. This laptop has it all. I've also sent encrypted files to a colleague I trust, Ben Morrison. He's an inspector with the State Contractors Board. If anything happens to me, he'll know what to do. But Rosa, I'm scared. Victor isn't just a thief." When I was leaving his office, he said something that chilled me. He said, "Accidents happen all the time in construction, Miguel. You should be more careful." The video ended there. I sat in the attic, surrounded by boxes of memories, and everything clicked into place. Miguel's death 5 years ago wasn't an accident. His brakes didn't just fail on that mountain highway. Victor had him killed. And now Victor had tried to kill our daughter for discovering the same thing. I didn't sleep that night. I went through every file on the laptop. Miguel had been meticulous. Invoices for companies that didn't exist. Payments to consultants whose addresses were vacant lots. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. And a ledger showing Victor had stolen $11, $7 million over 4 years. At dawn, I called my sister Carmen. She'd been a police officer in Tucson for 30 years before retiring, and she'd always been the strong one in our family. I told her everything. "Don't go to the local police," Carmen said immediately. "If Victor has people everywhere like Sophia said, you need to go federal. But first, we need that inspector Miguel mentioned, Ben Morrison. Find him. Get him the files. He'll know who to trust in the FBI." Finding Ben Morrison turned out to be easier than I expected. He was still working for the Arizona Registrar of Contractors, and when I called his office and mentioned Miguel's name, there was a long pause. "Mrs. Mendez," he said quietly. "I've been waiting for this call for 5 years. Can you meet me today? Somewhere public. How about the Desert Botanical Garden at 2 p.m.? I agreed. Carmen insisted on coming with me. We met Ben Morrison by the Sonoran Desert Nature Trail, surrounded by tourists and families. He was a thin man in his 60s, with white hair and the careful eyes of someone who'd seen corruption up close. "Miguel sent me encrypted files 3 days before he died," Ben said without preamble. "He said if anything happened to him, I should open them. I did. I tried to push for an investigation, but I was overruled. Victor Ashford's family has deep connections in this state. His uncle is a state senator, his cousin is a federal judge. The local DA plays golf with him every Saturday. So nobody did anything," I said, anger rising in my voice. "My husband was murdered, and everyone just looked away." "Not everyone," Ben replied. "I made copies. I've been waiting for the right moment, the right lever to use against Victor. But I'm just one man, and I knew if I moved too soon, I'd end up like Miguel. Then I'd be no use to anyone." Carmen leaned forward. "What's changed now?" "Sophia Mendez is alive," Ben said. "From what I read in the news, she survived the attack. If she can testify, if we can combine her evidence with what Miguel collected, we might have enough for the FBI to take this seriously. Federal wire fraud and conspiracy to commit murder crosses state lines and jurisdiction issues. But we need more. We need Victor to incriminate himself." That's when I told them about Sophia's condition at the hospital. She'd been moved to a private room with a security guard, but she was weak, scared. The police had questioned her, but she'd said she didn't see her attacker's face. She'd lied to protect herself until we could build a solid case. "We need to move fast," Ben said. Victor knows Sophia survived. He's going to be desperate. Desperate men make mistakes, but they're also dangerous. Over the next 3 days, while Sophia slowly recovered in the hospital, we built our team. Carmen brought in an old FBI contact, Agent Sarah Chen, who worked in the Phoenix field office on financial crimes. Agent Chen was interested, very interested, especially when Ben showed her Miguel's files and explained the pattern of corruption. "This is bigger than one embezzler," Agent Chen said when we met in her office. "If Victor has been operating this way for years with no consequences, it suggests a network. We'd need to investigate carefully, gather enough evidence that his connections can't save him." My nephew Daniel flew in from San Francisco. He'd gotten his CPA and worked as a forensic accountant for a tech company. I'd called him because Sophia always said he was the smartest person she knew when it came to following money trails. "Aunt Rosa," Daniel said after reviewing the laptop files for hours, "this is gold. Miguel documented everything perfectly. But here's the thing, the files are 5 years old. We need current evidence that Victor is still doing this. Otherwise, his lawyers will argue he cleaned up his act, that this was past behavior he's already corrected." That's when Sophia, still pale but determined, told us her part of the story. She'd been assigned to audit some subcontractor payments last month. She'd noticed the same patterns Miguel had documented. Fake companies, inflated invoices. When she pulled the corporate registrations, half the businesses didn't exist. The ones that did existed only on paper, with addresses that were vacant lots or UPS stores. "I made the same mistake Dad did," Sophia said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I went to Victor directly. I thought maybe there was an explanation, that maybe it was an accounting error someone else made. He was so nice about it at first. He thanked me for bringing it to his attention, said he'd look into it personally. Then 2 days later, I was working late, finishing up reports in my home office. I went out to the garage to get a box of old files and someone was there. He had a knife. He told me to forget what I found or next time he wouldn't miss my heart." "Did you recognize him?" Detective Barnes had joined our meeting, now convinced this was connected to a larger crime. "Could you identify him?" "No, he wore a ski mask. But," Sophia hesitated, "he had a tattoo on his wrist. A scorpion. And he called someone right after he stabbed me. Before I passed out, I heard him say, 'It's done, Mr. A. The problem is handled.'" Agent Chen sat forward. "Mr. A. As in Ashford. We had testimony. We had old evidence. But we needed Victor to confess, or at least incriminate himself in a way that couldn't be explained away. That's when I had an idea. An idea so risky that Carmen tried to talk me out of it for hours." "Absolutely not," Carmen said. "You're not bait, Rosa. You're 58 years old and he's already killed at least one person." "That's exactly why it has to be me," I said. "Victor knew Miguel. He might have met Sophia a few times at company events, but I'm just the widow, just the grieving wife who's been quiet for 5 years. He won't see me as a threat." The plan was simple but dangerous. I would approach Victor, tell him I'd found Miguel's laptop, and offer to sell it to him for enough money to pay Sophia's medical bills. I'd wear a wire. Agent Chen would have a team ready to move in if things went wrong. Ben Morrison would set up the meeting through a neutral channel, making it seem like I'd reached out to him asking how to contact Victor privately. The message would be clear: I had information Victor wanted, and I needed money. A transaction, nothing more. It took 2 days for Victor to agree to meet. He suggested an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of Phoenix, a half-built commercial development that Ashford Construction had started then inexplicably stopped working on 3 years ago. It was isolated, private. Everything in me screamed that it was a trap. "We'll have snipers on the surrounding buildings," Agent Chen assured me. "Undercover agents in construction worker disguises. The moment he threatens you or confesses to anything, we move in. You'll be wearing a wire and we'll have directional microphones. We won't let anything happen to you." Sophia begged me not to go. "Mom, please, we'll find another way. I can't lose you too." I held my daughter's hand in that hospital room. "Mija, your father spent the last weeks of his life collecting this evidence because he believed in doing the right thing. He knew it might cost him everything, and he did it anyway. I owe it to him to finish what he started. And I owe it to you to make sure the man who tried to kill you goes to prison for the rest of his life." The day of the meeting was brutally hot, even for Arizona in November. The temperature hit 98 degrees by 3 p.m. when I arrived at the construction site. The skeleton of a building rose against the desert sky, steel beams and concrete floors going nowhere. Victor's black Mercedes was already there, parked near the partially built entrance. He stepped out as I approached. Victor Ashford looked like success incarnate. Expensive suit, perfect silver hair, a Rolex catching the sunlight. He'd aged well since Miguel's funeral, while grief had carved lines in my face that would never smooth out. "Rosa," he said warmly, like we were old friends. "I was so sorry to hear about Sophia's incident. How is she recovering?" "Incident," I repeated, tasting the word. That's one way to describe someone stabbing my daughter. His smile didn't waver. Terrible thing. "This city is getting more dangerous every day. Did they catch who did it?" "Not yet," I said. The wire hidden under my loose blouse felt like it was burning against my skin. But that's not why I asked to meet. "Yes! Ben Morrison said you have something that belonged to Miguel. Something I might be interested in." Victor's tone was light, but his eyes were calculating, measuring me for weakness. I pulled out a USB drive, one of several copies we'd made. Everything Miguel collected. All his evidence about the money you stole. The fake companies, the offshore accounts, everything. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Those are serious accusations, Rosa." Miguel was a good man, but toward the end, he was confused, stressed. The pressures of the job were getting to him. "He wasn't confused," I said. "He was right. You've stolen almost $12 million from your own company. You've been doing it for years. And when Miguel threatened to expose you, you had him killed." The mask finally dropped. Victor's pleasant smile vanished, replaced by something cold and reptilian. "You can't prove any of that. Miguel's death was an accident. The police investigated thoroughly." "The police you play golf with? The ones who owe you favors?" I took a step closer, rage giving me courage I didn't know I had. "You murdered my husband. You tried to murder my daughter. And you think you're going to walk away from this?" "What I think," Victor said, his voice dropping to something almost gentle, "is that you're a widow trying to make sense of tragedy. You've found some old files and jumped to conclusions. I'm willing to be generous, Rosa, out of respect for Miguel's years of service. I'll give you $200,000 for that USB drive and any other copies. You can pay Sophia's medical bills. Set yourself up comfortably. All you have to do is forget this conspiracy theory and move on with your life. And if I don't?" Victor moved closer. In the distance, I could hear traffic on the highway, but here we were utterly alone. Or seemed to be. "Then I'll have to assume you're as foolish as your husband. And your daughter. You know, Sophia had such a bright future. It would be a shame if her recovery was complicated by unforeseen circumstances. Hospital security can't be everywhere. Things happen. Are you threatening my daughter?" My voice shook, but not with fear. With fury. "I'm offering you a choice," Victor said. "The smart choice is to take the money and disappear. The foolish choice is to keep digging into things that don't concern you. We both know how that worked out for Miguel." "So you admit it," I said. "You had him killed." Victor laughed. Actually laughed. "Rosa, please. I don't have to admit anything. Miguel's brakes failed. That's what the investigation concluded. If you want to believe it was something more, that's your grief talking. But if you start spreading these accusations publicly, I'll destroy you. I have lawyers who will tie you up in court for years. I have friends who can make sure Sophia never works in accounting again. I have resources you can't even imagine. But you want the USB drive." "Insurance," Victor said smoothly. "Even if Miguel's old evidence is mostly speculation, I'd rather it not circulate. Consider my offer a gesture of goodwill. $200,000. Cash. Today, all you have to do is give me that drive and promise this conversation never happened." I looked at the USB drive in my hand, then back at Victor. "You really think you're untouchable, don't you? You think your money and your connections put you above the law. I don't think it, Rosa. I know it. This is how the world works. People like me built this state. We create jobs, we build buildings, we fund campaigns. People like Miguel, like you, like Sophia. You're important too, don't misunderstand. The world needs workers. But it's people like me who make the decisions. Who determine how things run? People like you," I repeated. Murderers and thieves. Victor's face hardened. I'm giving you one more chance. Take the money or face the consequences. And trust me, you don't want to see what those consequences look like. That's when Agent Chen's voice crackled in the earpiece hidden under my hair. We have enough. Moving in now. Black SUVs appeared from behind the construction site, tires screeching. FBI agents in tactical gear emerged from the half-built structure around us. Victor spun around, his face going white as he realized he'd been set up. FBI! Victor Ashford, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, money laundering, and racketeering. Agent Chen appeared, weapon drawn, badge held high. Get on the ground now. Victor looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. You wore a wire? Miguel taught me to document everything, I said, stepping back as agents surrounded him. You should have remembered that about him. They handcuffed Victor right there on the dusty ground of his failed construction project. As they hauled him to his feet, he was still sputtering threats, talking about his lawyers, his connections. But Agent Chen just smiled. Mr. Ashford, your connections can't help you now. We've spent the last 3 days getting warrants for your bank accounts, your business records, even your personal computers. We have enough evidence to put you away for life. And that's before we track down whoever you hired to kill Miguel Mendez and attack Sofia Mendez. I'm guessing when we offer them immunity for testimony, they'll be very eager to cooperate. As they took Victor away, Ben Morrison approached me. Rosa, you were incredibly brave. Miguel would be proud. I watched the FBI vehicles drive away with Victor in custody. He said something in the video right before it ended. He said people like us were just grateful to have jobs. But he was wrong. People like us, we're not just workers. We're the ones who remember, who document, who fight back when fighting back seems impossible. The trial took 8 months. Daniel helped the FBI forensic accountants trace every dollar Victor had stolen. It turned out to be even more than Miguel had documented, nearly $15 million over 7 years. They found the hitman who'd killed Miguel and attacked Sofia, an ex-con named Derek Rush with a scorpion tattoo on his wrist. When offered immunity, he confessed everything, including recorded phone conversations with Victor. Victor's connections tried to help him. His uncle, the senator, claimed this was a politically motivated prosecution. His cousin, the judge, recused herself, but made statements to the press about presumption of innocence. His golf buddies from the police department suddenly couldn't remember ever knowing him that well. But the evidence was overwhelming. Miguel's files, Sofia's testimony, the wire recording of Victor's threats and admissions, Rush's confession, the forensic accounting that showed exactly where the money went. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victor Ashford was sentenced to life in federal prison without possibility of parole for conspiracy to commit murder, plus 35 additional years for the financial crimes. His assets were seized to pay restitution to Ashford Construction and the families he'd defrauded. Sofia recovered fully. She left Ashford Construction and now works as a forensic accountant for the Arizona Attorney General's office, helping investigate white-collar crime. She says every case she closes is for her father. Carmen moved to Phoenix to be closer to us. She says she's retired, but she's already volunteering with a nonprofit that helps crime victims navigate the legal system. Daniel visits every few months. He and Sofia have gotten close. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm planning a wedding in the next year or two. As for me, I used part of the restitution money to establish the Miguel Mendez Scholarship Fund for children of immigrants pursuing careers in accounting, engineering, and construction management. Every year, we give 5 full scholarships to Arizona State University in Miguel's name. Last week, on the 5th anniversary of finally getting justice, I visited Miguel's grave at Desert Sunset Memorial Park. I brought his favorite flowers, orange marigolds, and sat on the bench nearby, telling him everything that had happened. We did it, mi amor, I said to the headstone. We finished what you started. Victor is in prison, Sofia is thriving, and everyone knows the truth now. Everyone knows you were a hero. The desert wind carried my words away, but I swear I felt Miguel's presence there in the warmth of the Arizona sun, in the strength I'd found to fight for our family. He'd taught me that documentation matters, that truth matters, that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't strength or money or connections. It's a mother's love and a dead man's carefully kept records waiting for the right moment to speak. Did you like the story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.